The Galactic Council had existed for over 4,000 years. 47 species. 47 flags hanging in the great circular hall of Veron Station, a space station so massive it had its own weather systems, its own oceans sealed inside glass domes, its own underground cities humming with life from 100 different worlds. Every species had a seat. Every species had a voice. And then, about 200 years ago, Earth applied for membership. The Velhari, tall, silver-skinned beings with 4 arms and eyes that glowed faintly blue, were the first to review the application. Their chief diplomat, Elder Sorvain, had read through humanity's file for 3 full days before calling an emergency meeting. "They are unusual," he said carefully, placing the file down on the glass table. "Unusual how?" asked Ambassador Drexa of the Karath, a species that looked like massive beetles walking upright, their shells painted in ceremonial gold. "They are small, soft-bodied. No natural armor. No venom. No echolocation. No telepathic ability. No natural weapon of any kind." Sorvain paused. "And yet, their planet's history is almost entirely made up of wars they started with each other." The room went silent. "With each other?" repeated Miracel, the Lunari ambassador, a being that resembled a glowing jellyfish floating inside a contained water sphere. "Their own species? Thousands of them. Over land. Over water. Over ideology. Over food. Over things they themselves later admitted were completely pointless." Sorvain folded 2 of his 4 hands together. "And they survived every single one." Another silence. Longer this time. "Admit them," said old Ambassador Garak of the Dorn, a species so ancient they communicated in vibrations through the floor. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Any species that survives itself is worth watching." And so humanity was admitted to the Galactic Council. For the first 50 years, they mostly just watched. They sent their representatives, cheerful, loud, endlessly curious humans who brought strange foods to council meetings, laughed too easily, and asked questions that other species found either deeply philosophical or completely ridiculous, sometimes both at the same time. They were friendly. They were warm. But every senior diplomat on Veron Station had quietly made a note in their personal files. "Watch the humans. Don't let the smiling fool you." Because every now and then, in a tense moment, in a situation where other species flinched, the humans didn't. Their eyes would go quiet. Their smiles would fade. And something else would surface, something old and calm and absolutely certain of itself. The other species had a word for it in the shared galactic tongue. Karo. It meant the stillness before something irreversible. And the humans, without knowing it, carried that stillness with them everywhere they went. The first time anyone heard a human say the words, it was completely by accident. Commander Maya Chen stood in the main briefing room of Veron Station's military wing, her arms crossed, her dark eyes scanning the holographic display in front of her. She was 34 years old, the youngest human ever appointed to a joint galactic military command position. She had short black hair, a small scar above her left eyebrow from an incident she never explained, and a habit of going completely still when she was thinking hard about something. Around the table sat the Joint Task Force, 12 beings from 6 different species, all of them seasoned officers with decades of experience. The mission in front of them was a standard patrol operation. A remote sector near the Helvari Drift had been showing unusual energy readings. Could be equipment malfunction. Could be a rogue comet. Could be nothing. General Vosk of the Velhari, not Sorvain's department, but the military branch, had assigned the task force to investigate. The plan was simple. For ships, standard scan protocol, no engagement, report back within 72 hours. Lieutenant Krex, a young Korath officer with a freshly painted ceremonial shell, stood and pointed to the display. The scan will require sequential positioning. Each ship takes a quadrant. We estimate the process will take 60 hours if we... Actually, said Captain Darrow of the Lunari, his water sphere glowing softly, our readings suggest the eastern quadrant has significantly denser interference. It will take longer. Perhaps we should split the task differently. I propose. That won't work either, said Commander Yale of the Dorn, her vibrations translated by the room's tech into a low, measured voice. Our ships cannot maintain stable formation in high interference zones. We have tried before. The result was 3 years ago with older equipment, Krex snapped. The equipment hasn't changed as much as you think, Yale replied. Then maybe your pilots need to. The argument expanded. It always did in joint operations. 12 beings from 6 worlds with 6 different military traditions, 6 different definitions of standard procedure, and 6 different ideas about who should be in charge of what. Within 4 minutes, everyone was talking, nobody was listening, and the holographic display had been accidentally switched to a map of somewhere completely different. Maya watched it all without moving. She had been in joint operations for 2 years. She knew this part. She had learned to wait for the peak of the chaos, the exact moment when everyone had said their piece and the room hit a wall, and then she moved. That moment came at minute 6. She unfolded her arms. She looked at the display. She said very quietly, "Fine. I'll handle it." The room stopped. Not slowed down. Not gradually quieted. Stopped. Like someone had cut the power to every voice in the room simultaneously. Every non-human officer turned to look at her. Maya, unaware of the effect, had already pulled the display back to the correct map and was redrawing the quadrant assignments with quick, precise movements. Krex, your ships have the best interference shielding, you take the eastern zone. Yale, your pilots are the most experienced with tight formations, you anchor the center. Darrow, your scanning tech is the most sensitive. You take the outer perimeter where the readings are weakest, and you'll pick up anything that bleeds through. I'll take the northern quadrant and run the coordination relay. She tapped the display to confirm the plan. We leave in 4 hours, she said. Any questions? Nobody spoke. Maya looked up. 12 officers were staring at her. Some of them looked pale. One of the Karath officers, a veteran named Gruss who had fought in the Helvari border conflict and reportedly never showed emotion, had his mandibles pressed so tightly together they were almost white. What? Maya asked. You said. Krex started. I said we leave in 4 hours, Maya said. No, before that. You said fine, I'll handle it. Maya blinked. Yeah, because nobody was deciding anything, so... But Krex had already picked up his comm device. And, across the table, Yale was vibrating something that the translation tech rendered as alert, alert, alert. Maya looked around the room. What is happening right now? Nobody answered. They were all too busy making calls. It took Maya Chin 40 minutes to get a clear answer, and she only got it because Ambassador Sorvain, now retired but still living on Veron Station, agreed to meet her in the observation garden on level 7. The observation garden was one of the most peaceful places on the station. Real plants from 14 different worlds grew behind protective glass panels. A slow artificial breeze moved through the space. The light was warm and amber, designed to be comfortable for the widest range of species. Sorvain was sitting on a low bench when Maya arrived, his 4 hands folded neatly, his glowing blue eyes watching the plants move in the artificial wind. Sit down, Commander, he said. Maya sat. What did I do? Sorvain was quiet for a moment. You know, I have studied your species for 60 years. I have read every historical text your world has submitted to the Galactic Archive. I have spoken to hundreds of humans. And still, sometimes you surprise me. I just reorganized a task assignment. You said fine, I'll handle it, Sorvain said. Do you know what that phrase means to us? It means I'm taking over a task. It means much more than that. Sorvain turned to look at her. Commander, your species has a phrase. We have studied it extensively. In our galactic linguistic database, that specific phrase, those exact words, in that exact tone, appears in your historical records at 43 documented moments. He paused. All 43 of those moments preceded events that fundamentally changed the course of your planet's history. Maya stared at him. The first recorded instance was in a war council, 400 years ago, by a military general who then proceeded to win a conflict that everyone had declared unwinnable. Sorvain raised one of his 4 fingers. The second was spoken by a scientist who then, alone, developed a vaccine that stopped a plague that had already killed 60 million people. Another finger. The third was said by a young woman in a collapsed government building who then organized the evacuation of 900 people using only what she had in her pockets. He looked at Maya. We could go on. SYMJHY, as your phrase roughly translates, signals something very specific in your species. It signals that a human has decided, not that they are trying to decide, not that they are considering their options. They have already processed the problem, accepted the outcome, whatever it may be, and are now moving. Fully. Without hesitation. He paused. Other species deliberate when things go wrong. They form committees. They request more data. They wait. He folded his hands again. Humans say, fine, I'll handle it, and then they handle it. Often in ways that were previously considered impossible. Or insane. Or both. Maya sat with this for a moment. So, when I said it in the briefing room, every officer in that room understood, on an instinctive level, that the situation was about to change fundamentally. Sorvain's glowing eyes softened slightly. Krex has been in joint operations for 30 years. He has seen humans in action. When he heard those words, his first instinct was not excitement. A pause. It was fear. A careful, respectful fear. Maya looked out at the plants. I was just reorganizing a quadrant scan, she said quietly. Yes, said Sorvain. And yet here we are. He stood slowly, his forearms moving with careful elegance. Commander, he said, in 60 years of study, I have come to believe one thing with certainty about your species. Your greatest strength is not your technology. It is not your physical endurance, which is frankly remarkable. It is not even your capacity for strategy. He paused at the garden gate. It is that when everything goes wrong, and everything is on the line, a human will look at the problem, say those 4 words, and mean them. Completely. Without ego. Without theater. He glanced back at her. And that, to the rest of the galaxy, is the most terrifying and the most reassuring thing in the universe, depending entirely on which side of the problem you are on. He left. Maya sat alone in the amber light for a long time. Then she looked down at her hands. Fine, she thought. I'll handle it. And she almost laughed. The 4-ship task force launched on schedule. Maya's ship, the ISC Resolute, a mid-size human tactical vessel, took the northern quadrant as planned. The other 3 ships spread out across the Helvari Drift in their assigned positions, and within 2 hours the scan was underway. For the first 18 hours, everything was exactly as boring as the mission briefing had suggested it would be. Energy readings. Spectral analysis. The occasional comet fragment drifting past. Krex sent a message at hour 12 that simply said, nothing. Yale's translation came through as a low, steady hum that meant confirmed, nothing. Darrow's outer perimeter scan sent back clean data. Maya drank her coffee, reviewed the data streams, and let her crew run their routine checks. Her co-pilot, Ensign Tom Briggs, 26 years old, from Ohio, with a tendency to hum old pop songs when he was concentrating, was running the navigation board when the anomaly appeared. Commander, he said. His voice was very flat. Tom Briggs had a natural habit of being cheerful about nearly everything. A flat voice from Tom meant something was wrong. Maya was at his side in 3 steps. On the navigation screen, tucked behind the spectral noise of the drift's natural interference field, was a signal. Faint. Rhythmic. Clearly artificial. That's not equipment malfunction, Maya said. No, ma'am, Tom said. That pattern repeats every 14 seconds. Natural phenomena don't do that. Comet. No comet. I checked. He pulled up the directional overlay. It's coming from deep inside the drift. Sector 12-9. That's way outside our assigned zone. Maya looked at the signal for a long moment. Then she opened the joint channel. All units, this is Resolute. I'm picking up an artificial signal in Sector 12-9. Sending coordinates now. Krex, can you confirm from your position? A pause. Then Krex's voice, tight and careful. Confirmed, Resolute. We're seeing the same thing. It wasn't in any of our preliminary scans. Because it just started, said Darrow from the outer perimeter. My sensors show the signal activated approximately 16 minutes ago. Before that, nothing. Another silence. heavier this time. Something woke up, Tom said quietly. Maya didn't answer him. She was pulling up the species database, cross-referencing the signal pattern against known galactic communication protocols. The computer ran the comparison in 8 seconds. No match. She ran it again. No match. She sat back in her chair. Yale, she said into the joint channel, your species has the oldest database in the fleet. Does this pattern match anything in Dorn archives? Yale's response came slowly. The Dorn were deliberate communicators. When she finally spoke, her translated voice carried something that rarely appeared in Dorn communication. Uncertainty. It is not in our archives, she said. But the structure of the signal, the mathematical base, it is consistent with pre-archive civilization markers. Maya's crew went still. Pre-archive. That meant older than the Galactic Council's records. Older than 4,000 years. Possibly much, much older. Are we saying what I think we're saying? Tom asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Yeah, Maya said. She leaned forward and opened the All Units channel again. All ships, hold your positions. Do not approach Sector 12-9. I'm sending a full data package back to Veron Command right now.
She paused.
And someone wake up General Vosk. He's not going to want to hear this over morning coffee, but I'd rather that than the alternative. The data package went out. For 43 minutes, they waited. Then Veron Command responded, and it wasn't General Vosk on the channel. It was the full Galactic Council Emergency Board. All 47 members. Maya looked at the screen. 47 faces, silver, gold, glowing, ancient, young, strange and familiar, all looking back at her. The council chair, a Velhari named Everdaz, spoke first. His voice was carefully controlled. Commander Chen, we have reviewed your data. Yes, sir, Maya said. We are convening an emergency session. All task force ships are to hold position. We will be sending additional vessels, 12 from multiple species, to your location within 4 hours. He paused. This situation will require full council deliberation before any action is taken. Maya looked at the signal still pulsing on her screen. 14-second intervals.
Perfectly rhythmic.
She checked the data, getting stronger. With respect, Chairman Dawes, she said, the signal is intensifying. At current rate of increase, it'll be fully visible on standard sensors within 90 minutes. Anything in this sector will know something is out here responding to it. She pulled up the proximity data. And I'm reading gravitational disturbance at the signal origin point. Something is moving. A pause from the council board. 47 beings exchanging looks across the screen. Commander, we understand the urgency, Chairman Dawes said carefully. However, the protocol for unknown pre-archive signals requires full council authorization before. Chairman, Maya said. Her voice was very quiet, very still. Every human in the room recognized that stillness. Tom looked at her sideways. I understand the protocol, Maya said. But if that thing, whatever it is, finishes activating before we have a plan, we lose the advantage of first response. And in my experience, losing first response in an unknown contact situation is how small problems become very large ones. She looked at the screen. I'm not asking to engage. I'm asking for authorization to move my ship to a closer observational position while the council deliberates. Another long pause. It was Garak, old Ambassador Garak, ancient and unshakable, who spoke from his seat on the council board. His voice came through the floor vibration translation as it always did, slow and deep and absolute. Grant it, he said. Give the human her position. The other 46 looked at him. She is right about first response, he said simply. And she has not yet said the words. Dawes looked back at Maya. Authorization granted, Commander. Observational position only. Weapons cold. You report every 10 minutes. Understood, Maya said. She closed the council channel and looked at Tom.
Take us in, she said. Slow.
Quiet. Weapons cold. Yes, ma'am. Tom's hands moved across the board. Then, under his breath, he said she hasn't said the words yet. What words? Maya was already watching the signal on the screen. Let's hope they don't find out, she said. They found it at hour 29. It was not what any of them expected. The Resolute moved through the dense interference field of Sector 12-9 slowly, its sensors running full passive mode. The signal had grown louder, not louder in the way sound was loud, but in the way a heartbeat was loud in a very quiet room. Insistent. Present. Impossible to ignore. And then the drift cleared, a pocket of open space, maybe 200 kilometers across, completely still inside the churning interference field. And there it was. Tom stopped humming. The entire bridge crew went silent.
It was a ship.
Or it had been a ship once. Now it was something between a ship and a structure, massive beyond easy comprehension, drifting slowly in the still pocket of space. Its surface was dark metal covered in geometric patterns that caught the light and seemed to move even when the ship itself didn't. Its shape was wrong in ways that were hard to define, not ugly, but off, like a perspective drawing where the angles didn't match what they should. And it was alive. Not biologically alive, but powered. Lights moved through the geometric patterns in slow pulses. The signal was coming from its center, and around it, like an aura, a faint energy field rippled outward in waves that matched the 14-second interval exactly. How big is that thing? Maya asked quietly. Sensors are having trouble getting a clean reading, said Ensign Rosa Park, the ship's science officer, a quiet woman from Seoul with the most precise hands Maya had ever seen work a console. Interference from the energy field. But rough estimate, she stopped. Rosa. Rough estimate. 15 kilometers bow to stern. Rosa looked up. Ma'am, that's larger than Veron Station. A beat. Okay, Maya said. Just that. Just okay. Tom glanced at her. Maya was watching the ship with that still, quiet expression, not frozen, not afraid, just processing. Taking it in. Filing it. She opened the joint channel. All units, this is Resolute. I have visual on the source. Sending footage now. She keyed the data stream. It is a vessel. Class and origin unknown. Approximately 15 kilometers in length. It is powered but stationary. No visible weapons array, Rosa confirmed. No standard weapon signatures, Rosa said. But I want to be careful with the word standard. Noted, Maya said. Into the channel. No confirmed weapons. Signal still intensifying.
She paused.
It knows we're here. A long silence from the other ships. Crex's voice came first. How do you know? Because the signal pattern changed 40 seconds ago, Maya said. Before we had visual, it was broadcasting in all directions equally. Now, she checked Rosa's data. It's directional. Pointed at us. Another silence. Then the council emergency channel opened and Chairman Dawes was back, and behind him, the emergency board was in full session, all 47 faces present, some of them wearing emergency armor, which Maya had never seen before. Commander Chin, Dawes said, we have your footage. The council is in deliberation. He stopped. For the first time since Maya had known him, 3 years of joint operations, his voice cracked slightly. This is unlike anything in our records. We are requesting all task force ships maintain distance and await. The signal changed again. Not louder. Different. The 14-second rhythm broke. For 3 full seconds, the signal went completely silent. And then it came back at a completely different frequency, structured, sequential, unmistakably a language. It's talking, Tom whispered. Rosa was already working. Running it against all known galactic language databases. Pre-archive catalog, too. This will take, she stopped. Looked at her screen. Looked up. 4 seconds. It matched in 4 seconds. What language? Maya asked. Rosa's voice was very careful. It's not a language in the conventional sense. It's mathematics. Pure. Base 12 notation. And it's, Commander, it's a question. Dawes's voice from the council channel. What question? Rosa read it off her screen slowly. Who handles this? The entire council board went silent. 47 beings, representing 4,000 years of galactic civilization, all looking at that question. Who handles this? Dawes looked at his board members. Nobody spoke. They exchanged looks, careful, political, cautious looks. Looks that said, "Who wants to be the one to answer an unknown pre-archive intelligence that just asked to speak to whoever is in charge?" Nobody raised a hand. Nobody moved. And then, very quietly from somewhere on the bridge of the Resolute, a voice said,
"Fine.
"I'll handle it." It was Maya. She hadn't even realized she'd said it out loud. The effect was instantaneous. Tom's head snapped toward her. Rosa closed her eyes briefly. The council board, 47 of the most experienced diplomats and military commanders in the galaxy, went absolutely rigid. And old Garak, from the floor of the council chamber, sent a single vibration through the station that the translation tech rendered as 3 words. "Here we go." Nobody tried to stop her. Later, people would analyze this moment extensively. Committees would be formed.
Reports would be written.
47 species would spend a significant amount of time asking themselves, why did we just let the human do it? The answers varied. Some said it was because she had already moved by the time anyone thought to object, had already opened a direct response channel, and was already composing the reply in base 12 notation with Rosa's help. Some said it was because 47 experienced diplomats, faced with the most significant unknown contact event in galactic history, had simply and genuinely not known what to say, and the human did. And some, the more honest ones, said, because when a human says those words, you don't stop them. You step back and you watch, and you hope very hard that they know what they're doing. Maya composed the response in 4 minutes. She showed it to Rosa, who checked the mathematics. She showed it to Tom, who read it twice and nodded slowly. She did not show it to the council board, because the council board was still deliberating about whether to deliberate. She sent it. The response to the ancient ship's question, "Who handles this?" was 3 lines of base 12 notation that translated as, "I do. My name is Maya. I am listening." 3 things happened simultaneously. The signal from the ancient ship stopped completely. Every alarm on every ship in the task force went off at once, and the ancient ship moved, for the first time since they'd found it, slowly rotating to face the Resolute directly. "Maya," Tom said. His voice was very even. "It is very large, and it is pointing at us." "I know," Maya said. "Should I?" "Hold position," Maya said. "Weapons cold." Nobody moves. She kept her eyes on the screen. 10 seconds.
20.
30. And then, from the ancient ship, a new signal came. Not base 12 this time. Not mathematics. Something more complex, more layered. Rosa worked it furiously. The council channel was chaos. Voices overlapping in 7 languages, alarms being silenced, new ones going off, but Maya kept the joint task force channel quiet. Just her 4 ships. Just the people she needed. "Rosa," she said. "What is it saying?" Rosa worked for 90 more seconds. Then she stopped. She looked at her screen for a long moment. Then she turned in her chair and looked at Maya. "It's not a what," Rosa said. "It's a who." "Explain." "The signal is, it's a personality. A voice. Not a recorded message. Not an automated system. Someone is in there and they're responding to us in real time." Rosa looked back at her screen. "And they are, Commander, they are old. The linguistic architecture of this signal is, I can't even calculate the age. It is very, very old." "What are they saying?" Maya asked again. Rosa read slowly, translating as she went. "We have waited a long time for someone to say they were listening. The last ones who came, they deliberated. They sent committees. They asked for authorization. They were very organized and very careful, and they went away and came back and went away again, and we were still here when they finally returned, but by then it was too late for them to help. We lost everything we had come to protect." A pause in the signal. Rosa kept reading. "You are different. You said you were listening. Are you actually listening, or are you also waiting for a committee?" The council channel had gone completely quiet. Maya looked at the screen for one long moment. Then she said out loud to Rosa, "Tell them I'm actually listening, and ask them what they need." Rosa translated and sent. The response from the ancient ship came back in under 5 seconds.
"Finally," it said.
"It has been 4,218 years. Here is what we need." and a data package came through, so dense, so comprehensive, so staggering in scope that Rosa's console crashed twice trying to process it. When it finally loaded, Maya read through it in silence for 11 minutes while the council board held its collective breath on the other channel. When she finished, she sat back in her chair.
Tom, she said.
Yeah. How good are you at making coffee? He blinked. Really good. Why? Because we're going to be here for a while. She looked at the ancient ship, still pointing at them, still waiting. And I need to think. The data package took 6 hours to fully process. In those 6 hours, the council board sent 312 separate messages to Maya's ship. She had Rosa organize them by urgency, genuine emergency, important but not immediate and can wait. The third category contained 270 of them. She answered 2 of the genuine emergencies, delegated the important ones to Crex and Yale, and let the third pile sit. Tom made coffee. Rosa worked. The rest of the Resolute's crew moved quietly and efficiently because something about Maya's focused stillness had filled the entire ship like a temperature change. Everyone could feel it, and everyone understood instinctively that the right response was to be useful and quiet and ready. At hour 6, Maya had a full picture. She gathered her bridge crew and told them what she knew. Then she opened the council board channel and told them too, because by now, 47 senior representatives had been awake for over 20 hours and the deliberation was going in circles, and someone needed to break the loop. The ancient ship is called the Varithshan, Maya said. Rough translation: the last keeper. It belongs to a species called the Ashari. They were a spacefaring civilization approximately 4,200 years ago, which puts them before the founding of the Galactic Council. Chairman Dawes leaned forward on the council channel. We have no record of the Ashari. No, Maya said, because they disappeared before you started keeping records. And here's why. She pulled up the core of the data package and put it on the shared screen. 4,000 years ago, the Ashari discovered something at the edge of the known galaxy. Something they called the Voron, loosely translated as the quiet erasure. It is, and I want to be very precise here, not a weapon, not an intelligence, not a species.
She paused.
It is a phenomenon, a naturally occurring collapse pattern that moves through space at a consistent rate, consuming everything in its path, not destroying, but erasing.
Completely.
No debris, no radiation signature, nothing, like turning off a light. The council board was absolutely silent. The Ashari spent 400 years trying to stop it, Maya continued. They developed technology, they built defenses, they attempted communication, everything. And eventually they found a solution. A specific energy configuration. I'll have Rosa send the technical breakdown that could redirect the collapse pattern away from inhabited space. Permanently. If they found a solution, said Garak slowly, his voice rumbling, why did they disappear? Maya looked at the screen. Because implementing the solution required someone to stay at the point of redirection. The Voron doesn't respond to automated systems. The Ashari tried that first. It requires an active, present consciousness to maintain the configuration. Continuously. She let that land for a moment. The Ashari chose volunteers. Their entire civilization agreed that a crew of 12 would stay behind, on the Varithshan, maintaining the redirection field while the rest of their people evacuated.
She paused.
They planned to send relief crews. Rotating shifts. Every 50 years, a new crew would arrive, the old crew would go home. Everyone would be fine. But the relief crews never came, Tom said quietly from beside her. He had heard this part already. The Ashari evacuated successfully, Maya said. They found a new home, somewhere in the outer spiral. And then, based on the Varithshan's records, something happened there. Something big. They stopped sending messages. They stopped sending ships. The relief crew never came. A pause. The 12 volunteers on the Varithshan waited. And waited. And then, one by one over centuries, she stopped. The council board was very still. There is one left, Maya said.
One.
She has been maintaining the redirection field alone for the last. Rosa, give me the exact number. 1,411 years, Rosa said. Absolute silence on the council channel. Her name is Vei, Maya said. She is the one who sent the signal when she detected our ships. She has been sending it for 43 years, hoping someone would come close enough to hear it. Before that, Maya looked down at her notes. She waited alone for over 1,000 years, not sending any signal, because she was afraid that if she called attention to the Varith, whatever had erased the Ashari might come for them too. She looked back at the screen. She only started signaling when her power systems began to fail. Because when those systems fail, and at current rate of degradation, she has maybe 8 months, the redirection field collapses. And the Voron? Dawes asked. Resume's course, Maya said. Toward inhabited space. She pulled up the trajectory model. At current movement rate, which Rosa has verified against the Ashari's original data, it will reach the first inhabited system in the Council's territory in approximately 31 years. The Council board stared at the trajectory. 31 years, Dawes said carefully. That gives us significant time to develop a response. The Varith has 8 months, Maya said. We need a solution that works now, and a long-term plan that means one person is not maintaining this field alone ever again. She looked at the screen. And before any of that, Vei has been alone for 1,400 years. I think the first thing we do is let her know that someone heard her. She looked at the council board. 47 beings, 47 faces, all watching her. Do I have authorization to continue direct communication with the Varith? She asked. Dawes looked at his board. A moment of silent communication passed between them. Glances, nods, the particular stillness of a group of very old experienced beings realizing, collectively, that the human had already done in 6 hours what they had not been able to do in 43 minutes of deliberation. Authorized, Dawes said. Whatever you need, Commander. Maya nodded once. She turned to Rosa. Open the channel. She leaned forward toward the screen, toward the massive, ancient, patient ship floating in the still pocket of the drift.
Vei, she said.
My name is Maya. We heard you. We're not going anywhere. The response took 40 seconds to come back. 40 seconds was not long. But Maya had the feeling, impossible to explain but impossible to ignore, that in those 40 seconds on the Varith, something was happening that had not happened in a very long time. When the signal came through, Rosa translated it in real time, her voice steady and quiet.
Maya.
I want to make sure I am understanding correctly. You are staying? You are not going back to deliberate. Maya smiled just slightly. We're staying. The others, the council, the many voices on the other channel, they have authorized this? They have. Another pause. Shorter this time. I've been trying to explain my situation for 43 years to whoever I could reach. Other ships came 3 times. They heard my signal and investigated. They were very professional. They said they would report back. The second time, they came back with a larger ship and more people, and they asked very thorough questions, and they said the situation was being reviewed at the highest levels. A pause. The third time, a committee came. They spent 11 days in this sector. They produced a 400-page preliminary assessment. They said further review was required before any response protocol could be authorized. Another pause. That was 6 years ago. Maya was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Vei, I'm sorry. You're sorry? Why are you sorry? You came. I'm sorry it took this long, Maya said. A long pause. When the translation came through, Rosa's voice was softer than usual. You are the first person to say that to me in 4,200 years. The last person who said something like it her name was Sar. She was the last of the other crew members. She stayed as long as she could, but she was so tired. We were all so tired. And she made me promise to keep the field running, and I told her I would. A pause. I have kept my promise. Tom, beside Maya, was looking very carefully at his console. His jaw was tight. Rosa had her eyes on her screen, but her hands had stopped moving. On the council channel, which Maya had left partially open, there was complete silence. 47 beings listening to a woman who had been alone for 1,400 years describe the last conversation she'd had with another living creature. Vei, Maya said. You are not alone anymore. I promise you that. You say that easily. I know. The others said similar things. In different ways. I know, Maya said again. And I can't promise I'm different just by saying so. So I'm going to be different by staying. And by the time I leave this sector, you will have everything you need. A support crew, a long-term maintenance plan, a council guarantee, and a way home when you want it. She paused. Not a committee. Not a 400-page report. Real, actual things. A pause. How do you know you can do all of that? Maya looked at the ancient ship on her screen. 15 kilometers of dark metal and geometric light, patiently waiting in the still eye of the drift. Because I said I'll handle it, she said. And when I say that, I mean it. The longest pause yet. Then, I have been told many things by many people who meant them at the time. I know, Maya said. And I'm not asking you to trust me yet. I'm asking you to let me show you. She leaned forward slightly. Can I come aboard? The entire council board made a sound. Not one voice, 47 of them, in 17 different tonalities, making the universal sound of please do not do that. Vei's response came back in seconds.
Yes.
Come. Maya stood up. Tom, you have the bridge. Rosa, I need a full systems readout on the Varith Shan's power configuration. I want to understand what I'm looking at before I get there. Get me a small shuttle prepped. She looked at the council channel. Chairman Dawes, I am boarding the Varith Shan for direct assessment. I will have continuous comm contact with the Resolute. Dawes opened his mouth. Authorized, said Garak from the floor. Before Dawes could speak, Dawes closed his mouth. He looked at Garak. Garak looked back at him with the ancient, patient expression of a being who had been right about humans for a very long time. Authorized, Dawes said. Maya was already walking. The shuttle docked at a port on the Varith Shan's hull that had clearly not been used in a very long time. The docking clamps were stiff, the airlock mechanism slow. But it worked. Everything on this ship worked, because Vei had kept it working alone for over 1,000 years. Maya stepped through the airlock into a corridor that was wide and dark and strangely beautiful. The geometric patterns on the hull continued inside, lines of faint light moving through the walls and ceiling like a slow circuit, the pulse of the redirection field made visible. The air was breathable. Vei had prepared for her. The gravity was close enough to Earth standard that Maya barely noticed the difference. She walked for 3 minutes through corridors that had the feeling of a great, old library. Everything in its place, everything maintained, but the silence of a place that has not heard footsteps in too long. Then she turned a corner and stopped. Vei was standing at the end of the corridor. She was not what Maya had expected, though she wasn't sure what she had expected. Vei was small, shorter than Maya, slight, with 4 arms folded together in a way that looked very much like the Velhari's formal posture, but was clearly a completely separate evolutionary development. Her skin was dark gray and smooth, her eyes large and gold without visible pupils, her face composed of features that were alien but not unkind. She was wearing a simple dark uniform that was meticulously kept, pressed, clean, perfect. She looked very tired. Not the tiredness of someone who needed sleep, a deeper tiredness, the kind that lived in the eyes. But she was standing straight, both sets of arms folded neatly. Head up. Maya walked toward her slowly and stopped a few feet away. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Vei said, not through the translation relay, but directly in a language that Maya didn't speak, something short and quiet. The translation unit on Maya's collar processed it in 2 seconds. You are real. Yeah, Maya said. I'm real. Vei looked at her for a long moment. Then she said, would you like to see the field control room? I should explain the technical situation to someone who is going to handle it. Maya almost said yes, let's get to work. It was her first instinct, but she stopped, because Vei had said someone who is going to handle it in the exact same tone that other beings in the galaxy used when they heard Maya say those words. Not doubt. Not sarcasm. Something very specific. Relief. In a minute, Maya said. Can we just stand here for a second? Vei tilted her head slightly. Why? Because you've been alone for a very long time, Maya said. And I think before we talk about field configurations and power systems and council resolutions, you should just be able to stand somewhere with another person in it. For a minute. Vey looked at her. Those large gold eyes didn't show emotion the way human eyes did. The architecture was too different. But something changed in them. Something very small. Very careful. Like a door opening just a crack after being closed for a long, long time.
1 minute, Vey said.
1 minute, Maya agreed. They stood in the quiet corridor of the ancient ship, the field pulse moving through the walls around them, and for 60 seconds neither of them said anything at all. It was one of the most significant minutes in galactic history. Nobody on the council channel said a word during it either. Even Garak was silent. When the minute was up, Vey straightened, if that was possible, since she had already been straight, and said, "Come. I will show you the control room." "Lead the way," Maya said. The field control room was at the heart of the Varithshan, and it was extraordinary. A sphere of space 30 meters across, its walls entirely transparent, showing the drift outside in full panoramic view. In the center, a single console, a complex, intricate system that the Ashari had designed to be operated by 12 people simultaneously, modified over the centuries by Vey alone to be operable by one. The modifications were, Maya walked around the console slowly, looking at every change, every addition, every workaround that 4,000 years of adaptation had produced. Remarkable. Messy in places. Brilliant in others. The signature of someone working alone with limited resources and unlimited time, and a specific, unbreakable commitment. "This took you centuries to modify," Maya said. "Yes," Vey said. "The original system required continuous coordination between 12 operators. I had to simplify it, and create backups. And create backups for the backups." She touched the console with 2 of her 4 hands, the gesture unconscious and familiar. "It is not elegant. It's incredible," Maya said. Vey looked at her. "You understand the technical principles?" "Enough to know that keeping this running alone is like," Maya searched for the right analogy, "like keeping an entire orchestra playing by yourself. On every instrument. Simultaneously." "That is approximately correct," Vey said. She paused. "You brought a data engineer with you?" "Rosa is the best I have. She's already working through your original design specs." Maya sat down at the edge of the console, not touching it. "Okay, walk me through the power degradation. What's failing and at what rate?" They worked for 4 hours. Vey had never had someone sit across from her and work through a problem as a partner, not for over 1,000 years. She had adapted to working alone so completely that she occasionally started explaining something, stopped, and looked at Maya with a slightly startled expression, as if remembering that she didn't have to finish the thought in her own head. Maya let her find the rhythm. She asked questions. She listened, actually listened, without forming her response while Vey was still talking. She asked Rosa to cross-reference things. She pushed back twice, gently but directly, when Vey's assessment of a system seemed to underestimate the damage, and both times Vey looked at the data and said, with the particular dignity of someone who was right about most things and could admit the exceptions, "You are correct." By hour 4, they had a complete picture. The Varithshan's power core was failing. Not catastrophically, but inevitably. Current rate of degradation gave them 7 months, 3 weeks. The redirection field required continuous power at a specific frequency. If that power dropped below a threshold, and it would, unless something changed, the field would fail. "Solutions," Maya said. "What have you tried?" Vey listed them. She had tried 6 different approaches over the last 40 years, since the degradation became measurable. All 6 had bought time, weeks, occasionally months, but none had addressed the core problem. The Varithshan's power generation technology was 4,000 years old. Some components could not be replicated with anything currently available in the galaxy. "Some," Maya said. 3 specific components, Vey said. "Without them." "What if we don't repair the Varithshan's power core?" Maya said. "What if we supplement it?" "External power source, interfaced with your field system." Vey was quiet for a moment. "I considered this. The interference field of the drift would be a problem for a standard power relay," Maya said. But Rosa, she touched her comms. Rosa, I'm sending you Vay's interference field data. Cross it with our drift survey from the mission approach. Tell me if there's a stable corridor. Rosa's voice came back in 90 seconds. There's a narrow one. 42 degrees from your current position, Commander. Not perfect, but if we used a modified relay configuration, braided rather than linear, the signal loss would be manageable. Maya looked at Vay. Can your systems interface with an external relay? Vay looked at the console. She was quiet for so long that Maya thought she might be running calculations in her head, and Maya realized. 4,000 years of working alone meant she did a lot of processing internally before she spoke. Yes, Vay said finally, but it would require. Tell me what it requires, Maya said. I'll find it. You are very confident, Vay said. Not challenging. Observational. I said I'd handle it, Maya said simply. So, I'm handling it. She paused. You've been keeping your promise for 4,000 years. I can handle this. Vay looked at her for a long moment with those large gold eyes. Yes, she said. I think perhaps you can. Maya opened the council channel. Chairman Dawes. I need a shopping list approved. Hi, how are you? I want your help in writing me stories. The best stories for my YT channel that people love and stories that are realistic with no timeline issues keep the viewers engaged and entertained throughout the story. Add emotional plot twists according to the title, the one that suits the story. According to the title, it is a complete story in 12 parts, which makes sense that it is 75 minutes, not more than this when reading, with no repeated lines. And in every new story with new characters and new plots, a whole new fresh story time. I give you a title. Use the vocabulary that is easy to pronounce, human vocabulary. Use Caro, or SYMJHY, to complete the detailed story in 12 parts. The story must be in simple English, with simple American names. I know you can do your best. Make long parts. It took the council board 11 minutes to approve Maya's request list. This was, by any historical standard, extraordinary. The previous record for emergency resource approval was 4 days. The normal process took between 3 weeks and 3 months. The Galactic Council had 47 member species, each with their own approval chains, their own resource ministries, their own bureaucratic traditions stretching back thousands of years. It took 11 minutes. Because Maya had said I'll handle it, and every being on the council board had, by this point, decided very firmly that they wanted to be helping the human, not in her way. The request list included 12 specialized engineers from 5 different species, a Velhari power relay array capable of sustaining the Varithshan's field requirements, 3 months of emergency supplies, a complete external communications upgrade for the ancient ship, and, at the very bottom of the list, added last, in a slightly different font because Maya had added it herself, separately, one item that had nothing to do with engineering. 1 guest suite, fully equipped, ready for long-term occupation. For the keeper of the field. Vay, reading the manifest when it was sent over, looked at that last line for a long time. This is for me, she said. When you want it, Maya said. Not now. Not until the field is stable and you have a crew to take over the watch. But eventually you get to come home, Vay. Wherever home is for you now. She paused. You kept your promise. The galaxy owes you a life back. Vay was silent. You don't have to take it, Maya said. It's yours if you want it. That's all. The silence went on long enough that Maya started to think she'd overstepped. But then Vay said, very quietly, I forgot what it felt like to want something for myself. It has been so long. Take your time, Maya said. I never thought, Vay stopped. Started again. I never thought that staying was the wrong choice. I believed in what we were protecting. I still do. A pause. But I used to want things. Before. Simple things. I had a home on the Ashari world that no longer exists. I had a garden. I had a person she stopped. I had a life. Before I chose this. She looked at Maya. I do not regret choosing it. But I had forgotten that I was once a person who wanted a garden. Maya looked at her. We'll find you a good planet, she said. One with good soil. It was a small thing to say. A simple thing. Vei's forearms tightened slightly against her body. The Ashari equivalent, Maya would learn later, of something close to tears. "Tell me about the engineering team," Vei said after a moment. "Business. Practicality. The language of someone who has survived by focusing on what was in front of them." "They'll be here in 6 days," Maya said. "Best in the council. I've asked specifically for—" "You asked specifically? You chose them yourself? I know what the system needs. I wanted the right people." Maya looked at her. "You have questions about any of them, you tell me. We don't bring anyone aboard your ship that you're not comfortable with." Vei looked at the console, then at Maya. "In 4,000 years," she said slowly, "no one has ever asked me what I was comfortable with." Maya looked back at her steadily. Then it was long overdue. Outside the Varith Shan, something was happening across the sector. The 12 engineering ships were assembling at Veron Station. Engineers who had been contacted by emergency request were dropping other work and packing for extended deployment. Resources were moving. Plans were being made at a speed that the Galactic Council's logistics teams found both invigorating and faintly terrifying. In the council chamber, the 47 representatives watched the activity reports come in. Old Garak spoke, his voice low and steady. "This is what happens," he said, "when a human says those words and means them." Nobody argued with him. 3 months later, the Varith Shan looked different. Not dramatically different. Maya had been careful about that. The ancient ship structure, its geometry, its dark and patient exterior were unchanged. But now, along its port side, a sleek relay array connected it to an external power source anchored in the stable corridor Rosa had found. The connection hummed with steady, reliable energy. The Varith Shan's power readings had stabilized at 112% of minimum field requirement, not just sufficient, but comfortable, with redundancy built in. Inside, the field control room had new stations, 6 of them, designed collaboratively by Vei and the engineering team to match the original Ashari 12 operator system, modified for the range of species who would be serving on the new rotating watch crew. The console that Vei had spent centuries adapting for solo operation was preserved, unchanged, in the center, a monument to what she had done and a reminder of what must never be allowed to happen again. The engineering team had been remarkable. Vei had been reserved with them at first, careful, watchful, precise in her communications. By the end of the 2nd week, she had memorized all their names and their technical specialties and, in her quiet way, begun directing their work with the absolute expertise of someone who had spent 4 millennia understanding a system down to its last component. The lead engineer, a Velhari named Toph, young and brilliant and initially very nervous about working on a pre-archive vessel with its original keeper watching over his shoulder, had told Maya at the end of week 2, "She is the best engineer I have ever seen. She should be in a university. She should be teaching everyone." Maya had smiled. "Tell her that."
He had.
Vei's response had been a long silence, and then, perhaps, eventually, on the day the field stability was confirmed, officially by council-certified measurement, beyond any doubt stable and sustainable, Maya stood in the field control room with Vei and the engineering team and the 6-person rotating crew who had arrived from 4 different council species to begin their watch. Chairman Dawes came in person. He was not a person who traveled. He had not left Veron Station in 11 years.
He came anyway.
He stood in the transparent walled room and looked out at the drift and said nothing for a long time. Then he turned to Vei and said, "On behalf of the Galactic Council, on behalf of all 47 species and every life in the territory we share, I want to say that what you have done is—"
He stopped.
Because the translator could not find adequate words in any of the 47 galactic languages for what Vei had done, and Dawes was an honest enough politician to refuse to reach for an inadequate one. "Thank you," he said finally. Simply and completely. "Thank you." Vei looked at him with her large gold eyes. "Send someone next time," she said. "Don't wait 4,000 years." Dawes bowed. A deep, formal Velhari bow, for arms spread wide. Never again. Later, Maya found Vei standing at a viewport in one of the quieter corridors, looking out at the drift. She was wearing the same meticulously pressed uniform, but she had something in her hands, a small flat object, no bigger than a palm, dark metal with geometric patterns on it. What's that? Maya asked. Sar gave it to me, Vay said. Before the end. It was from her home. I do not know what it did, exactly. A decoration, I think. From a garden. Maya stood beside her. They looked out at the drift together. The council has offered you a settlement option on 4 different planets, Maya said. All of them reviewed for climate compatibility. One of them has extremely good soil, according to the agricultural survey. Vay was quiet. You don't have to decide now, Maya said. I know. A pause. I think I would like to see it. The planet with the soil. Another pause. I have been here a very long time. I think I would like to have a garden again. Maya nodded. I'll set it up. You will handle it, Vay said. There was something new in her voice when she said it. Not fear. Not the careful respect of the other species who had heard that phrase. Something warmer.
Trust.
Maya smiled.
Yeah.
I'll handle it. Vay looked at the small metal piece in her hands. Then she looked at Maya. Maya, she said, why did you come aboard? The first time, when the council was still deliberating. Why did you do it instead of waiting? Maya thought about it honestly. It was a fair question and it deserved a real answer. Because someone needed to, she said. And I was there. And it was clear. She paused. When something is clear and you're capable and you have the chance, you don't wait for a committee. You say you'll handle it, and then you do.
She paused again.
Where I come from, that's not special. That's just what you do. Vay was quiet for a long moment. Where you come from, she said slowly, sounds like a very particular kind of place. It's messy, Maya said honestly. We fight each other constantly. We make enormous mistakes. We are extremely loud, and we drink far too much coffee, and we have a deeply questionable relationship with getting enough sleep. And yet, Vay said. And yet, Maya agreed. Across the galaxy, 47 council species were filing reports, adjusting protocols, and in several cases, quietly adding a new subsection to their diplomatic training manuals. The subsection was titled, On Human Phrases and Their Consequences. The first entry read, when a human says, fine, I'll handle it, do not panic. Do not deliberate.
Do not form a committee. Get out of the way.
And then watch, because what happens next will be either the most terrifying or the most extraordinary thing you have ever seen. In our experience, both. Usually both. On the Varithshan, in a corridor filled with the quiet pulse of a field that had been faithfully maintained for 4,000 years, Vay held Sar's garden piece in her 4 hands and looked out at the stars she had been watching alone for longer than most civilizations had existed. And for the first time in 1,400 years, she was not alone. White heavy checkmark story complete.